Throughout history, autocratic leaders have often employed nationalistic sentiments to solidify their control. Surprisingly, some of the most ruthless rulers did not hail from the territories they eventually dominated. Here, we explore the stories of four such despots: Napoleon Bonaparte, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Catherine the Great, who reshaped their national identities before ascending to absolute power. Napoleon Bonaparte. Born as Napoleon Bonaparte in Corsica, an island that France acquired from the Italian city-state of Genoa, Napoleon initially viewed France as a foreign nation. Raised speaking Corsican and learning to read and write in Italian, he only began to learn French when sent to school in mainland France at the age of 9. His Corsican accent persisted, subjecting him to mockery from his peers and later from the soldiers he commanded. In his teenage years, Napoleon harbored a desire for Corsican independence, denouncing French oppression. However, his perspective gradually shifted after the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789. In 1793, political turmoil forced his family to flee Corsica, leading him to renounce the Corsican independence movement entirely. From that point onward, Napoleon adopted a French identity, downplaying his Italian heritage and adopting the French-sounding name Napoleon Bonaparte. Rising through the military ranks, he orchestrated a coup d'état in 1799, subsequently conquering vast territories in Europe on behalf of France. Adolf Hitler. Born in an Austrian town near Germany, Adolf Hitler moved frequently during his youth, experiencing life on both sides of the border. He served in the German army during World War I, asserting that he had always felt German rather than Austrian. After the failed Beer Hall Putsch of 1923, the German authorities considered deporting him to Austria, but the Austrian government refused to take him back. To avoid future deportation threats, Hitler applied in 1925 to renounce his Austrian citizenship, which was promptly granted. For the next 7 years, he remained stateless until announcing his candidacy in the 1932 German presidential election, after which he became a German citizen. Despite being a German citizen for less than a year, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in January 1933, marking the beginning of a brutal 12-year Nazi rule that caused immense suffering and loss of life. Joseph Stalin. Born Joseph Vissarionovich Jugashvili in Georgia, which was assimilated into the Russian Empire, Stalin embraced revolutionary Marxism during his time at a seminary. Initially speaking Georgian, he learned Russian as a teenager, retaining a strong accent similar to Napoleon's Corsican accent. Jugashvili cherished Georgian literature and briefly advocated for an autonomous Georgian Marxist party, which he later abandoned to appease his Bolshevik superiors. Gradually, he grew closer to Russian culture and in 1921 orchestrated a violent invasion of Georgia, bringing the region under Bolshevik control and quashing a short-lived Georgian independence. During Stalin's purges in the 1930s, Georgians suffered greatly, with thousands killed, and many forcibly displaced to remote parts of the Soviet Union. Despite his anti-Georgian actions, a significant portion of Georgians maintained a favorable view of the dictator. Catherine the Great. Originally Sophie von Anhalt-Zerbst, Catherine hailed from Prussia but became part of the Russian court when her relative, Elizabeth, rose to power in Russia in 1741. After a falling out, Elizabeth invited 14-year-old Sophie to Russia as a potential bride for her nephew, Peter. Sophie, quickly immersing herself in Russian culture, converted from Lutheranism to Orthodox Christianity in 1744 and was renamed Catherine. She married Peter the following year, and their tumultuous relationship culminated in a coup where Peter was assassinated. Catherine subsequently became Russia's longest-reigning female leader, expanding the country's borders at the expense of Poland and the Ottoman Empire. Catherine was not the only monarch to rule over an adopted country. Other examples include English kings George I and George II, who grew up in Germany, and English King William of Orange, who was raised in Holland. These four autocrats demonstrate that national identities can be fluid, and those seeking power may strategically adapt their allegiance to serve their ambitions.